You're watching Majesty of Bharat, a journey through blood, fort, and freedom, where legends breathe once more. Every story you hear is rooted in real Indian history.
The boy who would become a king, ever even held a sword.
Mm.
Before that word Swarajya echoed across the hills, the valleys of Maharashtra, there was this man, a father, a strategist, a dreamer. His name was Shahaji Raje, and today we're really diving deep into his life. It's often overlooked, but it's just so foundational.
That's absolutely right. When we think of the Maratha Empire, Shivaji Maharaj springs to mind immediately, and, well, rightly so. But to really get the full picture, to understand the sheer scale of Swarajya, we have to look at the man who shaped the world Shivaji inherited, and actually the vision he pursued. Shahaji often gets overshadowed, but his role, absolutely crucial.
So our mission today is really to unpack the vital insights into Shahaji's life. His foundational, almost, you could say, secret role in the Maratha Empire. What was driving him? How did he actually operate in such a, well, chaotic time? And why does his story matter so much for understanding leadership, strategy, even today?
Yeah, it's critical we set the scene. Shahaji Bhonsle, born late 16th century, comes of age in an India that was incredibly turbulent. And putting it mildly, picture this. The Mughal Empire is just relentlessly pushing south, determined to expand. And at the same time, you've got the big Deccan Sultanates, Ahmednagar, Bijapur, Golconda locked in this constant brutal struggle among themselves. It's just an environment of nonstop war, shifting alliances, deep political instability.
Wow. So not just a complex game, but a battlefield where everyone's switching sides, the rules are changing constantly. Sounds like just surviving was an achievement, let alone actually thriving.
Exactly. And that chaos wasn't just background noise. It forged Shahaji to navigate that. He couldn't just be a brave warrior, though he certainly was that. He had to be incredibly shrewd, a statesman, a master diplomat, able to read the power currents, know when to adapt, when to fight, and maybe most importantly, when to just wait.
And he didn't just survive, he climbed the ranks.
Yeah.
We first see him serving the Nizam Shahi court of Ahmednagar.
Yeah.
How did he start out in this really volatile world?
Well, he quickly earned a lot of respect, not just his family name, but sheer courage on the battlefield and this undeniable tactical genius. There's one story during a really fierce siege. Shahaji, quite young then, manages to outfox a much larger enemy force with this clever move, saved his commander's flank. So he really proved himself there. But like we said, kingdoms were shaky, alliances fragile. When the Nizam Shahi court weakened, eventually fell apart, Shahaji, always pragmatic, always with an eye on the bigger picture, strategically moved over to the Adil Shahi court of Bijapur.
Right, and it was in Bijapur he really cemented his position, wasn't it? Rose to Mansabdar, basically a top noble commander, loads of land, military duties. That shows incredible adaptability, a real grasp of power dynamic.
It does. It shows that strategic brilliance. He knew shifting sides wasn't disloyalty back then. It was often about keeping influence, holding on to resources for a much deeper long-term goal. Because even as he was climbing that ladder, managing these huge jagirs, land grants, giving him revenue and administrative power, he wasn't just chasing personal gain. His mind was absolutely set on something far, far bigger.
Okay, now that's where it gets really interesting, this deeper vision. What was he actually striving for?
Shahaji had this profound, almost unbelievably audacious dream for that era, an independent Hindu kingdom. He envisioned a Swarajya, a term meaning self-rule, yes, but more than that. A sovereign state, free from foreign control, where justice, dharma would be central. This wasn't just some passing fancy, born of opportunity. It was the driving force behind everything he did, no matter how complex or, frankly, contradictory it seemed on the surface.
An independent kingdom. When you've got the mighty Mughals and these established sultanates all around, that sounds less like a dream, more like, well, impossible.
And Shahaji knew it. That's the critical insight here. He understood the brutal truth. Outright rebellion, it would have been suicide. Simple as that. The established powers had overwhelming force, massive resources, spies everywhere. A direct fight, crushed immediately. He couldn't just raise a flag and say, right, we're independent now.
Okay, so if open rebellion is basically a death sentence, what does that mean for his plan? How do you chase an impossible dream without openly fighting the powers you actually serve?
It meant he chose patience. He chose precision. He adopted this incredibly long-term strategy, something that would unfold over decades, not days or months. And this, I really think, holds a powerful lesson for us today, way beyond just history.
Absolutely. It's not just old history, is it? It's a massive example of maybe preemptive strategy, or delayed gratification for a huge vision. Shahaji wasn't trying to smash down a wall, he was meticulously preparing the ground, brick by brick, for something that would rise much later. What can we learn from that approach about building something big right under everyone's noses, even today?
Exactly. And that idea, meticulously preparing the ground, it really comes alive when you look at how Shahaji invested in his future, specifically in his family. Which brings us to one of his most brilliant and, yeah, often overlooked strategic masterstrokes. Putting his wife, Jijabai, and young son, Shivaji, in the pretty quiet region of Pune.
Pune. That was under Ajilsihi control then, right?
Huh.
But the sources call it a place most overlooked. Why was that choice so important?
Oh, it was genius, absolute genius. By putting them somewhere that wasn't a major power hub, Shahaji basically shielded them, kept them away from the intense court politics, the backstabbing, the constant danger of the Sultanate capitals. It wasn't neglect, not at all. It was a strategic safe zone. Pune was this unique mix, technically under Bijapur, but geographically isolated enough, hills, forests, to let them develop independently without drawing too much heat.
And he didn't just leave them there. He appointed Dadoji Kondev, this loyal administrator, a warrior who'd served the family for years, to look after them, guide them. So this wasn't exile. It was something much more deliberate, foundational.
Yes. It was meticulously planned preparation. Shahaji's goal was crystal clear. He wanted his son raised away from the phoniness, the corruption, the suffocating vibe of palace life. He wanted Shivaji surrounded by, as you said, real people, real struggle, real India, connecting with farmers, hill folk, understanding their problems, building this deep bond with the land itself. Shivaji learned practical governing, tactics suited to that rough terrain, the spirit of his people, not just theory from court.
So while Shahaji is off managing forts, leading armies for Bijapur, supposedly serving them,
Yeah.
it almost sounds like his real focus was elsewhere, a completely different endgame.
Precisely. And that's where you see the true genius and honestly the sort of hidden emotional heart of Shahaji's strategy. Because while the world saw him in Bijapur, working tirelessly for the Sultanate, his heart, his hope was firmly planted in those quiet Pune hills, knowing that's where his son would quietly grow into a lion. That's the real light bulb moment here, understanding his foresight, his huge, quiet investment in the future. He was playing an incredibly long game, investing not in immediate, flashy rebellion, but in the slow, careful nurturing of his successor.
That's a profound level of foresight and trust. To put such a massive dream into the hands of a child, knowing it would take years, decades maybe, to bloom, it really makes you think, doesn't it? How often world-changing things start with that kind of patience, not just immediate fireworks.
And what's also fascinating is that Shahaji's story isn't just grand politics, it's deeply personal too. He faced some serious humiliation early on, specifically around falling in love with
Jijabai, who becomes this revered figure,
Oh.
the mother of Swarajya. But their marriage faced resistance at first, fierce resistance.
Oh, absolutely. Jijabai's father, Lakhuji Jadhav, was this incredibly powerful, proud Maratha noble. His family thought they were way above the Bonsals. So the marriage was resisted, openly mocked, nearly broken up by sheer pride, complicated family politics, old grudges. It was a direct hit to Shahaji's dignity, his standing. Not just a minor slight, it was a real social and political insult.
So how did he handle that kind of personal battle, that humiliation?
Well, the sources say he fought back with faith, which speaks volumes about his inner strength, his resilience, maybe his belief in his vision, and his choice of Jijabai. And over time, his sheer patience, combined with his undeniable skill battlefield administration, both just won out. He eventually earned the titles, the huge jagirs, yes, but also deep respect. Even from those who'd looked down on him, his achievements just became too big to ignore.
And his actual accomplishments during this time were impressive, securing key forts like Shivneri, Shivaji's birthplace, and Chakan, effectively ruling big areas like Pune, Supe. These weren't random land grabs, they were strategic points.
Indeed. Critical for building a power base, resources, but maybe even more important than forts or land, Shahaji had this unique knack for building bridges.
Bridges?
Yeah.
In such a divided, competitive world, what kind are we talking about?
Connections between Marathas and Muslims, between various rebel factions and the rulers, between warriors and, well, even poets. He understood that complex web of human relationships, how to use them for a bigger goal. For instance, he kept good relations with Sufi saints, Muslim scholars, even while championing Hindu ideals. He'd often mediate disputes, earning trust everywhere. Shows his diplomatic genius. He wasn't just about the sword, he was a unifier. could command respect across different groups. That set a powerful example for his son.
A unifier, even when everything was pulling apart. That really sets the stage for what the sources call his double game. How on earth did he manage that? Playing two completely contradictory roles at the same time without getting caught.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Shahaji played this incredibly sophisticated double game. One public face for survival, one secret path pursuing Swarajya, publicly. Perfect loyalty to Adil Shahi. Did his duties as Mansabdar, managed forts, led armies? But secretly, he was sowing the seeds of rebellion through his son. And this wasn't just a vague hope. It was organized, long-term, indirect support.
So his outward actions were one thing, but his real agenda, his true focus, was totally different. Channeled through Shivaji. How did he actually do it? What are the concrete examples of this silent sowing? It sounds incredibly risky, supporting a rebellion from inside the system you're meant to serve.
Hugely risky. A real testament to his cunning. He got Shivaji the essentials, often disguised as normal administrative stuff or gifts. Sent weapons, not just basic stuff, but top-quality swords, shields, early firearms. Things a small rebel group couldn't easily get. Sent expert tutors teaching not just war, but governance, administration, diplomacy, scriptures, provided books, encouraged intellect. Crucially, he sent experienced commanders, administrators loyal to him first, who'd become the core of Shivaji's own team. Think of it like building a shadow government, a shadow army, piece by careful piece.
And maybe the most profound thing, the sources say he sent belief. That's not something you can pack in a box, is it? What did that really mean, sending belief?
That's the most powerful bit, but yeah, intangible. Belief here means that unwavering faith, that confidence Shahaji instilled in his son. The deep conviction that Swarajya wasn't just possible, it was destined. It wasn't just words. It was cultivated by Jijabai, raising Shivaji according to Shahaji's vision, emphasizing righteousness, self-reliance. It was in that whole environment Shahaji created in Pune Shivaji, absorbing the Maratha spirit, the land, the people, not the corrupting influence of foreign courts. Shahaji built the vision, laid the practical groundwork, and then gave his son the absolute conviction to go for it, knowing he had support from afar.
It really hammers home that Shahaji never raised his own flag, never declared himself king, yet his actions were deeply revolutionary.
And that's exactly it, the core takeaway of his legacy. His actions, quiet, strategic, yes, but monumentally impactful. He laid the foundation of the Maratha Empire brick by brick, silently, strategically, and selflessly. To the outside world, just another powerful, noble, serving sultans. But to history, when you look closely, he was the first, often unsung, architect of Swarajya. He built the scaffolding, prepared the site, created the blueprint for the future.
So what this means for you, listening now, is that it kind of challenges that common idea that big change only happens through loud, open rebellion. This story shows how huge, world-altering movements often start with quiet, strategic groundwork, laid by heroes who aren't always in the spotlight. It's a powerful lesson in patience, long-term thinking, and the massive impact of indirect influence. It makes you think about how many important things today are built on that kind of behind-the-scenes effort.
It really is an amazing story. Shahaji Raje was so many things. A tough warrior, a clever statesman, a loving father, and this brilliant, patient strategist. His contribution to the start of the Maratha Empire was quiet, methodical, and deeply selfless. He was truly the first architect of Swarajya, a vision he painstakingly built piece by piece, not for himself, but for a future he knew he likely wouldn't see.
So as you think about this deep dive into Shahaji Raje's life, maybe consider this. What does it really mean to be an architect of something huge without ever holding the sword yourself or raising the flag or even wanting the spotlight? How much of history's greatest successes, maybe even today's breakthroughs, are built on that kind of silent strategic foundation, laid by people who never sought the immediate applause but just believed in the power of a patient long view?